Welcome to the second episode of Make a Move podcast. My name is Matt, and my goal is to connect with people that inspire me and share with you their stories, which might help you to make a move, change your life, and become the best version of yourself. I am very excited to share this episode with you because my today's guest is a very good friend of mine and a person that inspires me every day. She's a well-respected yoga teacher in Dubai. She's doing teacher trainings all over the place. She recently came from Jordan from doing a teacher training there. Right before that, she was in Nepal hosting a yoga retreat where I was lucky enough to be with her as her photographer. But apart from all her career achievements, she's a very strong person, very open person, and people who know her know that she's strong thanks to her vulnerability and willingness to share her story. Today, she opens up about her former addiction to alcohol and her eating disorders. She also talks about how she left her secure job where she was earning around $10,000 a month for teaching yoga, which gave her more fulfillment and gave her more satisfaction as well. But enough from me, I'm going to let her to tell you all about it. I introduce to you Neha. Neha, welcome to the podcast. Thank you for coming.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so glad we got to do this finally. We've only been planning it for like 6 months now.
Yep, only 6 months. Look at us.
We're busy people.
We are so busy. Both of us, especially me. All right, so for people who don't know Neha, she's a well-known yoga teacher in Dubai. I would say one of the most respected yoga teachers in Dubai. And you are doing workshops all around the place. You just came recently from Jordan, where you did handstand workshop, right?
It's a teacher training.
Teacher training. And recently you've been doing somewhere else.
We've done Bahrain, so I've done the region a little bit, and I've done some work in India as well, run teacher trainings and workshops in Mumbai and Bangalore. So yeah, just planning to travel the world and take it over.
Are you already doing it? It's amazing. And you've been teaching yoga for 5 years, you said?
Yeah, about 5 years. So I was putting in all my hours into the Yoga Alliance website, and I realized I graduated from my training in 2013, my first training, and didn't start teaching until 2014. So yeah, about 5.5-ish.
Where did you do your training?
My first one was a hot yoga training in Thailand.
Oh, wow.
So whenever people ask me, I mean, it was a really good training for the time, but not one that I would recommend to people. If I could do it over, I would have done it differently. But hey, hindsight is always 20/20.
Yeah, but it got you where you are now.
It got me where I am.
You wouldn't be probably where you are now, right?
Because when I started practicing yoga, I think the options were quite limited as well. So Bikram yoga was pretty big, and it was the closest studio to my house. So it was literally proximity that took me to a hot yoga studio, and I did that for about 3 years.
Nice. Where was that?
In Almina. So Club Stretch, both the branches
but
of
in
Club
Dubai,
Stretch. Yeah.
In Dubai.
So I started my journey in Dubai.
Cool.
Yeah.
So you were born in Dubai?
I was born and raised in Dubai. Yeah, I'm a Gulfie.
Nice.
Yeah.
Where's the accent from?
All over the place, as they do happen with Dubai kids. It's kind of get mistaken for being Australian and from the UK and American. Well, I've lived in the States and I've lived in the UK for a while, but I don't think long enough to get an accent, you know.
Yeah.
Probably fake it most of the time. Who knows?
I know, it's like this weird thing about Dubai people. Everybody has this weird accent.
It's a Dubai accent, let's call it.
Undetectable.
Undetectable.
So where in US did you live, by the way?
So I went to school in Austin, Texas.
Oh, wow.
Hook 'em horns, for anyone listening. And then I lived in New York City. So I was graduated from an advertising program. And so anyone who wants to work in advertising is going to have to go to Madison Avenue, right? So I went to New York to pound the pavement there for a couple of years, like 4 years.
Oh, wow. That's like a dream. It was always my dream to live in New York for some time at least.
Yeah, I was very, very broke to begin with. So 6 months of living on a stoop next to a homeless person.
I think that's usually the case of living in New York.
Pretty much, like tap him on the shoulder. Hey guy, I need to go to work. You need to move.
Oh, wow.
No, it was cool though. I had a really good time. I worked at Ogilvy in Mather, big old company, about 2,000 people big. And then left New York and went to San Francisco for a couple of months.
Wow, look at you.
Lived there for
I
a little
didn't even
while.
know that.
Yeah, 6 to 8 months in San Francisco, then came back to Dubai, worked at Ogilvy in Dubai, and then went to London for 3 years to work there.
Again, advertising
All
designing
advertising
and stuff. Did you like London?
I loved it. I mean, I think the first year was miserable because the weather was just like terrible.
Typical.
And so getting used to the weather, and I'm a sun baby. Like I'd rather be hot than be cold. So for me to be cold all the time was not easy. But once I got over that, the city itself was amazing, really amazing. I've never eaten food like that before.
Oh.
And I went to so many like underground stand-up comedy shows. It's not funny. Like so many random things. I really had a good time exploring London.
Nice.
Yeah.
I never had a chance to properly explore. I mean, I've been flying there with the airline when I was a crew, but that was like one day there always.
Yeah.
I never properly did see the city, so...
I actually watched like Chris Rock, second row. I paid insane amounts of money to watch him sitting in the second row. I think he spit on me. I think that was amazing.
Did you enjoy it?
Yeah. I mean, he didn't mean to spit on me. You know what I mean? Like he was talking and there was a little bit of spit on my face.
Was it worth it?
It was totally worth it.
Did you wash since then?
No, not really. I just washed around that area.
Yeah. Cool. And then from London you came back to Dubai, yeah?
Yeah, so I didn't actually practice any yoga in that time. I used to be such a gym rat. So when I lived in New York, when I lived in London, I didn't really practice any yoga, which I kind of kick myself a little bit for. But
you were still active, like physically
I was
active.
physically active. Yeah. I loved to go to the gym. I didn't actually love it. I used to spend so many hours just wasting time and like forcing myself to burn calories more than anything else. I think I was just paranoid about putting on weight, to be honest. So I used to go to the gym to just work out. I didn't really enjoy it. But I think for all of us, you know, we find yoga, or yoga finds us when the timing is right.
Yeah.
So
and it did find you in Dubai.
It did find me. It kind of saved my life.
Yeah. So what was kind of not forcing you? What brought you to yoga actually? How you decided to start?
So, I mean, for me, I think I started to develop a little bit. I've got an addictive personality. I know that for sure. I think for those of us who've got this kind of personality type, it can be a blessing and a curse. It can keep you really focused and really driven, but it can also drive you to points of being extremely unhealthy. And so I, you know, all the way from university, I think I started to develop an addiction, what do you call it? Not an affiliation, a kind of affinity for like just drinking. I used to like to have a drink, and it probably started with like wine coolers and graduated to vodka, and vodka became my drink of choice.
But you're talking like drinking and partying? Or?
Drinking and partying, yeah, like social drinking. But then I found myself drinking to be creative. And I remember Luke Sullivan, an amazing copywriter, once saying, you know, he said, oftentimes we confuse creativity with alcohol or drugs, and don't fool yourself. You know, alcohol or drugs doesn't make you creative, it makes you dumb.
Yeah.
So I think, you know, I mean, there's a big drinking culture in advertising. Every advertising agency has a local pub. Creatives love to like stay late at work and then go out and, you know, kind of get together and chill and be creative together in the wee hours of the night.
Yeah.
And so there's a pressure there to conform and be, you know, if you want to be part of the popular crowd, you got to drink. And so, you know, for me, I'm not sure where it kind of crossed over into like full-blown addiction. I think towards the end of my career in advertising, I was really fucking good at what I did. But there was also a huge conflict inside of me about what I was doing for a living. Imagine 16 hours being spent of your day doing something that you really don't believe in. And I think for me, it was a long time before I got to a point where I was ready to walk away from all the money, all the potential fame, everything that I had built myself up into. Not that I loved what I did, but I was really good at it.
Yeah.
So to walk away from that, knowing in my heart that it just wasn't meant for me, was a step that I wasn't able to take immediately. So in the meantime, to numb out the voices, numb out my gut feeling, numb out the sound of my heart, I think I used to just drink all the time. And I got to a point where I was taking whiskey into work, and I'm sure people smelt it on my breath all the time. It was coming out of my pores all the time.
Was that already somewhere in London or US, or we talking about
It was
Dubai?
in London, and then when I came back to Dubai, it had gotten to a point where I knew for a fact that I couldn't really stop myself anymore. I used to kind of wake up in the morning and brush my teeth with alcohol. You know what I mean? So it had gotten to a point where I was literally praying for someone to catch me, because it was just like I'd gotten so good at hiding everything as well, but it was like I just needed to be caught out so that I could be saved, because at the point where my parents got involved and they dragged me to a doctor because I had actually OD'd. I had taken some I was having a cold, so I took some paracetamol and then I chugged some alcohol on top of that, and they kind of found me foaming at the mouth, laying in bed.
Wow.
So if they hadn't found me, I probably wouldn't be here talking to you, you know?
Did you live alone by that time, or you were living with them?
No, I was living at home with them because I'd just come back from India. I was, you know, just like I'd worked there and I came back and I really, really wasn't in a good headspace.
Yeah.
They took me to the hospital, and the doctor basically sat me down and said, well, look, at this point, you know, you need to make a decision about whether you want to live at all, because you have a good 6 months. And then after that, we are not going to guarantee anything. Your liver is about to give out. At that point, I was also like bleeding out of my body. Like these were all open wounds. All of these sores that these marks that you see they're all over my body. They were open wounds because my skin was like deteriorating, because my liver was like giving up. It had gotten pretty bad. Yeah, so it's almost like I didn't have a choice at that point, but to walk away from what I was doing.
How long ago was that?
That was 2013.
So like 7 years?
Yeah.
And how long do you think was it ongoing issue? When it stopped being a social drinking and when it started to be?
I'm not sure, because I was in a relationship with my ex-fiancé for about 7 years, and he was an alcoholic too.
Oh.
So I think I used to drink to keep up with him. I met him in London and we dated for about 7 years. And I think being with him is a very volatile relationship. It wasn't good for me, but I was in it for better or for worse, and it was just not helping me at all. So I think just being with him as well, and how miserable I felt from time to time, it was just escalating. I could use anything as an excuse to drink, right? So I'm not sure, but I can't even imagine. Like, I used to drink before I went into work, because I used to wake up at like 4 a.m. and stare at the ceiling. And I couldn't wait. Like, I would dread going into work, and so I would drink to remove the dread. You know, so it's fascinating to me to look back and think, you know, I see people today stuck in cycles of just, you know, lives that they don't want to live but are too afraid to walk away from. And it's just, for me, you know, I think life gives you the opportunity to walk away many, many times, but then if you don't do it, it will start to take the steps to make you do it anyway.
Yeah.
So I feel like I was put in a corner where everything that I had ever thought was part of my identity was a big question mark. So my relationship fell apart. My relationship with my parents fell apart. My family found out, and it was all devastating to them as well. Being part of an Indian society, it's not easy to go through something like this, because you're culturally bound to be a good citizen.
Yeah.
My work life was falling apart. Everything that I considered precious and what made Neha was crumbling. And it was like I was in a space where life was stripping me off all my labels and asking me, well, who are you now? So I literally feel like it was a moment where I was kind of allowed to be born again.
Oh,
yeah.
Can you, like, looking back in retrospect, would you say that, could you be grateful for what happened? Or?
All of it. If I could do it over, I'd do it all over again. I really would, because I've heard this being said over and over again. It's always the adversity that forces you to grow. It's never the good times. It's never the times where, everything is right and happy, where you think, I want to push myself and get out of the situation, learn how to do something differently, learn how to be a different person, redefine myself. It's never those moments where you're completely satisfied with everything. Those are not the moments in which that stuff is going to happen. It's going to be in spaces where you're forced to think different, where you're forced to make changes and deal with the fact that you might be scared, but you're going to do something anyway. Find out how much courage you have. Really question, like you and I were talking about this morning, really question everything and figure out what's going to make you happy and what's worth living for. It's always going to be moments like that.
It's like a storm, right?
Yeah,
it's
and
really
I'm totally grateful. I'm really grateful. I mean, to the point where I remember, like, my ex-fiance, he passed away a couple of years ago. And I think it was the drinking that, sent him away.
Yeah.
I remember I was going in to teach an inversion class at 7 p.m. on a Wednesday, and his sister called me to tell me that he had passed away. And it was like literally 2 minutes before I was going to go teach.
Shit.
That was probably the hardest class I have ever taught.
So you actually did teach the class?
I did teach
regardless.
the class. I put on the face and I taught the class. But I also realized at that point how far I had come from being the person that I was with him. The fact that he had stayed stuck where he was, too afraid to make any changes, and I had chosen differently.
Yeah.
And that could have been me.
So did you walk away from him?
Yeah. I mean, things happened, things conspired. We could be here all day talking about that. But, I realized that I was in that relationship because I was too afraid to be my own person. He was a very strong personality. And for a lot of reasons, I still to this day love him. But he wasn't good for me. And once I was able to walk away from him, it's been 7 years now, as I told you earlier. And, I haven't dated in that time. It's taken me all this time to really work on myself.
To heal.
And to actually feel like I'm able in some ways to love myself as well, to value myself. Because if I don't spend the time doing that for me, then I'm just going to continue trying to find somebody else who's going to validate my existence. And putting that power in other people's hands, whether it's my life partner, or whether it's my boss, or whether it's, I'm never having a boss again, but, my employer or my family. I never want to give that power away to anybody ever again. So I validate me every single day.
That's amazing.
Every single day. So from now onwards, whoever it is that comes into my life is going to be somebody who complements my life, who doesn't complete it, because hopefully I'm completing me.
It's not like you're half coming, you are whole.
I'm not perfect, but I'm full.
Yeah. That's beautiful. From what I remember when I met you, you were actually, your yoga class was the first class I ever did in Dubai. Was the second yoga class I ever did. And I told you that before, but this is what made me kind of decide that I want to go this path.
Aww.
Because you inspired me so much, and I need to acknowledge you for that, because I remember until now, it was in Urban Yoga, Business Bay, Dubai, and it was a beautiful class with something like 15-minute meditation and breath work in the end.
Yeah, it's
I remember
probably a
it
sunset
until
flow.
now. Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
And I remember we did like sit against the walls in the end, and it was beautiful. And you were the trigger that like told me, okay, this is something I want to do. I want to become a person like this. From my perspective at the time, you were someone you have your shit together, you're very calm. And from many people's perspective, I believe it's so. When they come to your class, they see you as like this calm person, a good leader because you lead the class, you got your shit together and all that. But I got the same. Many times people told me like, wow, you are so calm, you're a yoga teacher, all this. And if they knew what kind of shit is going in my head, they would probably run. And the question is, do you feel like you have your shit together all the time?
No.
Even now?
Most days, no. The demons are there, you know, the self-doubt and the self-hatred and the self-loathing and the the desire to fall back into old habits is constantly there. But there is also a growing awareness of the fact that I have a choice and I can choose differently.
Yeah.
And I can choose differently because I know the consequences. I've already lived the consequences of going down that path. And the choice is whether I want to repeat that pattern or whether I want to form some new ones.
Yeah.
Do I love myself enough? As I said, I'm not in love with myself, but do I love myself enough to give myself a fighting chance? Or am I just going to give up and fall back into stuff? And you know, I mean, going into yoga, it all seems like such a wonderful thing to be doing yoga poses all day and to be speaking your heart and, you know, teaching classes and having the freedom to, like, I don't know what people think yoga people do, but I think it seems like a pretty chill life.
Yeah.
But I promise you that I haven't worked this hard. Even when I was working 16-hour days, I haven't worked as hard as I do now. And it's a hard and lonely road. It's a lonely place to be this person who is responsible for other people's health and well-being as well, you know, because as you said, people put you on a pedestal.
Yeah.
And there's pressure to be okay all the time. And the fact is that we're human. And most days we're not okay. We're dealing with things like everybody else, except you put your shit to the side and you go teach like everything's okay. Those are the hard days, right? Like where you have to kind of make yourself available even when you have nothing left to give. Yeah. So it's not an easy choice we make as yoga teachers to be these people. It's hard work.
Do you feel like you need to put on a mask and you need to kind of pretend? Because, you know, it's still a job. You're working for a studio and you go there and there is, let's say, 20, 30 people coming with expectations. Okay, I'm coming here to chill. I'm coming here to not only physically work, but many people come there to turn off their brain mentally and to just zone out. And they come there for you, not for the studio. They come there for you and they are like, okay, she will give me this. And do you feel pressure and big responsibility that I have to deliver? I have to be this person. I have to be calm. I have to be nice to everybody. And I have to be this yoga teacher voice, you know?
I think for me, I started teaching these classes called Self-Love Saturdays and Sundays at Lululemon. And I think something switched for me in those classes because I remember the first session that I did, I actually started with, I'm an alcoholic. And speaking my truth gave me a lot of freedom. It was a big moment of release for me, just to not have to keep this perfection persona on
so you
anymore.
Took off the mask, basically.
Yeah, and I think I would encourage people to do that as well, just because A, it takes the pressure off, and B, it actually makes you really relatable. Because suddenly people realize that you're human too. And the things that you talk about are the things that they're going through as well. Yeah. So when people come into class, yes, they're looking to disconnect from everything, but to know that someone else is in it with them while they're struggling is something that I kind of really enjoy. And it's really cathartic for me to be able to be real. You know, if I'm not having a good day, I don't want to laugh and joke and, you know, pretend like everything is okay, because it's not. So I think people really appreciate that as well, that sometimes you're up and sometimes you're down. I talk about this in classes as well. You know, sometimes I'm ready to give a lot of energy and sometimes all I want to do is receive. And it works. It really works both ways.
Yeah.
Sometimes, I don't know if you've had this experience as well, you walk into class thinking, how the hell am I going to do this today? Yep. And you walk out thinking, wow, that felt really good.
Yeah, they healed
I'm really
me,
grateful.
literally.
Yeah, exactly. So it works both ways. Yeah. And you have to allow it to work both ways.
So would you encourage all the yoga teachers to be more vulnerable, less pretend and more real talk?
I think if it comes naturally to you, absolutely. I think, you know, it depends on the kind of person that you are. You can't force yourself to be anything else but you. Yeah. And if it comes naturally for you to kind of share your story, to allow people in and for people to see who you really are, then absolutely. Why not? If you're somebody who likes to keep a distance and kind of keep work at work and home at home, then I completely respect that too. Yeah. Because you don't want to put your shit in other people thinking that you're going to pile onto them and all that kind of stuff. So if talking about your life and having people relate to you that way is something that works for you, something that you'd like to, you know, is the kind of teacher that you'd like to be, then absolutely. I don't think it works for everybody, but
yeah,
it definitely
for
works
sure
for
it's
me.
individual. Like not everybody wants to do it, or
yeah. I mean, I remember Les Leventhal. He's been my inspiration my whole life. I love him as a teacher. I followed him to Bali, and when I think about the kind of person and teacher that I want to be, I always think about him only in the respect of the way that he kind of talks about himself and relates to the audience and actually makes them laugh and cry all at the same time by the way that he's talking about his own experience in postures, in life, in his journey. And I thought to myself, wow, that's the kind of person that I want to be. Yeah.
And do you think you are already the person?
I'm getting there. I think, I wasn't the same person I was last year, and hopefully I won't be the same person next year that I am today. So I think ebbing and flowing, we kind of find our voice and we kind of find our personality. I don't think I'm completely him. I don't think it's worth me even trying to be him.
Yeah, of course.
But I am more and more every day. I'm beginning to realize it's okay to be me.
That's nicely said. I would like to go back to your addiction. Especially for the benefit of people who listen, because 100% there are people dealing with addiction that they don't want to talk about it. They're scared to talk about it. They think it's not okay to talk about it. And if you can just share more about how you dealt with it. So you found yourself in a hospital, and what happened after?
Yeah, it's been I came back from the hospital, and so I've had eating disorders as well. They say bulimics make amazing alcoholics. So bulimia, alcoholism goes together, and then bulimics and anorexics also switch from time to time. Sometimes you're throwing up food, sometimes you're not having any. So basically having not so healthy relationship with food has also been like a parallel line that I've been running throughout my life.
Did it happen together, or would you say it was first?
I think, I don't want to blame my parents because I feel like they did the best that they possibly could. But I think my mom's always had issues with her height and weight. And so I think it transferred from there into both me and my sister. We both had very challenging relationships with food. For me, that's probably been my inspiration. As I said, I was a gym rat, and for me, calorie counting was more important than actually doing something that I actually was passionate about. So I've always kind of been really conscious about my weight because I was a fat kid growing up as well. The bulimia and stuff started, I think, when I went away to university. Yeah. I was on my own, and it was just my coping. US, yeah, it was my coping mechanism. It was a high pressure university scenario, and it was just my coping mechanism. And then with that came, oh look, there's some wine, let's have that on an empty stomach, and I could get really high on an empty stomach. And so I don't know, it kind of went back and forth. But anyway, when it escalated to where it did, I came back from the hospital and I just laid in bed for about a year.
Okay. At home with your parents?
Yeah. I mean, I didn't have the energy to do anything. I wasn't eating, I wasn't sleeping, I was just laying in bed all the time.
Did you still drink at the time?
No, I stopped drinking. I went to they call it a panchakarma. So it's kind of like, I wouldn't call it Indian rehab, but it's Ayurvedic detox center where, you kind of go through the treatment.
In India, yeah?
Yeah, a whole month spent there, healing my skin and then healing my body from the inside, all that kind of stuff. So I came back home and I stayed in bed. And then I used to wake up sometimes to, my mom would actually start to drag me to a Bikram class every now and then.
Did she do yoga as well?
She didn't, but then she wanted me to start practicing. So we started to go together. So I would do that and then come back and lay in bed. And then slowly and surely I started to get up, go to class, come back and then paint for a while. Nice. So I think by the end of the second year, I had enough paintings to do a gallery showing. I actually did a gallery showing.
Really?
Because I went back to painting. I love to paint, and it's something that I lost along the way.
What did you paint?
Just all kinds of stuff.
Anything, yeah?
All kinds of stuff. So
do you still have the paintings?
I do have a few, yeah. I do have a few.
You have to show me.
I have to. Yeah, you got to come over.
Yeah.
But yeah, so, slowly, it was a very slow process. And then I decided at some point I wanted to go for yoga training. But then I would have to go back to work in some way to be able to make the money for the training. So I decided to go back to advertising on my own terms, though. So I was doing a lot of permalancing work, long-term freelancing work with agencies on the on the my only criteria was like I have to leave at 6 p.m. because there's a class across the road. There was Zen yoga across the road. And I was like, 6:01, I have to be in class. I'm not missing a single yoga class.
So you were not working from home. You were actually...
No, I was going into an agency. So I was working, I did that for about a year, made enough money to send myself on the training, came back and went straight back to work. Because I think the idea of like, at that point as well, like I was an ACD, like I was an associated creative director, and to like be making 40 grand a month was a hard thing to walk away from. It was really hard. And I was working on my own terms, 2 years in, I was working with a really good company and I had my own hours. They respected the fact that I had like 6 p.m. Like that's it. Neha's not going to work. So you became
a boss, literally.
Yeah. So I was doing really well. As I said, like being creative is what comes really naturally to me. But just because you're good at something doesn't mean that that's what you're supposed to do. And I think I say this to somebody at least once a week. And that includes teaching yoga. But yeah, it was a very hard thing for me to walk away from, earning really, really good money.
But you had already before you had the job, you decided I'm going to do this job just temporarily because I want to teach yoga.
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter that you made 40 grand. That's dirhams, by the way. If you don't know dirhams, that's like 10,000 US a month. You still knew that I don't want to do this, no matter what kind of money I make. I
did at the back of my head, but the fact that the money was in my bank every single month was hard to walk away from. It was not easy because it's just bankable money, right?
Of course.
And then knowing that, I'm not even going to a parallel profession. I'm just going to start from the ground up. If I move to yoga, I'm going to be picking up classes that nobody else wants to teach. Like, starting there, like
from
no
zero.
experience at all. It's like being homeless and interning in advertising all over again, right? At the beginning of my career, except now I'm not 20, I'm 30 something.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it was a very hard decision to make, and I didn't make it for the longest time. I had one leg in one boat, and then sometimes I would teach like a evening or a weekend class at a yoga studio. For like about 6 to 8 months, I did that, So it was just, and then finally, I think I came to a point where I was like, okay, I'm working 7 days a week. This doesn't make any sense to me anymore. If my passion is to heal people and help teach people how to be physically active and healthy and happy, because I realized how unhappy and how stuck people in corporate can be. And that's who I was surrounded by. I was like, well, then I need to make this shift, because this shift is going to change who I hang out with, is going to change my circle, is going to change my life.
Yeah.
So it was a very hard thing. And I actually, to be quite honest, and I've come out with this recently and let people know that I actually relapsed when I was first starting to teach yoga, because it is not easy.
Yeah.
It can get really dark. Shit can get really fucking dark. So I relapsed, and I used to actually drink shots of tequila before going in to teach, because I was like, this was a real bad mistake. Like, this was a mistake.
So you had like big anxiety before teaching?
Yeah, massive.
Was it connected to teaching or?
No, it was connected to all my frustrations about like this unsurety. Like, when you start first teaching, you're like, there isn't a steady income coming in anymore, and you're constantly spending more money than you have. And it's just like, we had this conversation. It's always, I need to change this mindset, but I come from this mindset where I just don't have enough. And so it didn't feel like a good place to me. And I was trying to preach and teach people how to be healthy and happy. And here I was completely unhappy, and it's like, okay, well then the only thing I know how to do to numb out this feeling that I'm having, this horrible feeling, is to drink. And so I went back to drinking.
Shit.
Yeah. And I was trying to teach and drink at the same time for a while.
For how long do you think was that going on?
It wasn't long, but it happened a few times. It happened a few times.
And at the time, you didn't really share with anyone?
I didn't, because I felt like it felt horrible, because I was being so hypocritical. Yeah. I'm telling people, hey, be happy, be healthy, do amazing things for your body, and then go out and have a glass of wine and a shot of tequila every night. So it wasn't great. And, I think I had walked away from Ashtanga a whole bunch of times, and slowly, I think it was this decision to go back to to practice thing Ashtanga,
Mm-hmm.
for which I had to wake up really early.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you've ever done an Ashtanga practice
I haven't.
drunk, but it's really not fun. So you got to be sober for the practice. And I started to fall in love with the practice.
Mm-hmm.
And then also over the past couple of years, just like more meditation.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, meditation has helped in more ways than I can ever imagine. Just being able to sit in silence with feelings I've never wanted to feel.
Mm-hmm.
Just being able to recognize patterns, have that sort of really heightened awareness about what is happening, even, in my own body, in my own mind. And just being okay with the silence, because the silence brings out the demons.
So instead of avoiding it, you finally
Completely
let
facing
it
it.
come and faced it.
Yeah.
That's what I'm coming back to meditation now again. I've been meditating, but then I stopped for almost a year, back and forth. Now I'm coming back, but I know it's going to help me and I know it's helpful, but when you are in the toughest times, when you need it the most, it's the hardest to actually do it.
Oh yeah, because you're so unsettled in your head and you're thinking, how is sitting still even going to happen? Forget trying to get deep and get all nirvana-like, but like...
No, just literally just sit
just sitting.
and listen to all this
all
shit
the
going on in your head.
Yeah, and it's just horrifying. As I said, like before we sat down today, I'm having one of those days and I can be really mean to myself. And I thought I had dealt with all of it. It's just shocking to me that it just comes straight back in a really strong wave. All the horrible things that horrible Neha has to think about herself. It's still there.
That's what we're talking about today. It's not like it will disappear. It comes, but you just know every single time better how to deal with it and how to not suppress it or ignore it, just confront it better, I would say. Be aware of it and just go through it every single time. And it just, every single time you're stronger, right?
Yeah, I don't think you can't avoid, and it's about life as well. It's just, you can't avoid things. You really can't avoid things because you can't pretend they go away and they go away. They don't go away. They just get louder and they get stronger. The more you avoid certain feelings or certain behaviors or certain habits, you're just giving them more power.
It just accumulates over time and eventually it's going to blow up in your face, right?
Yeah. I think, you're just giving all those things more power.
Yeah. Would you say there was if you could say there was one single thing that changed your perception or really helped you to deal with the addiction, what would it be? Would you say it was yoga?
I think yoga has helped me build an awareness. I think yoga has definitely been a huge catalyst in me getting better, feeling better, healing as a person. I would say all the practices that have just built my awareness. Whether it's meditation, whether it's reading, whether it's a podcast, whether it's a conversation with a person, whether it's my yoga physical practice, whether it's all the movement practices that I do, even handstands for that matter. I started doing handstands because I wanted to stay sober. That was my reason for standing on my hands. So, I think all the people that I've ever connected with on my journey, every single action has brought me to this point, as you said.
Yeah.
And I think, a conscious decision to really, really understand what it might mean to love myself, because secretly I envy people who are in love with themselves. I really envy that. And I think that's such a beautiful thing. I can't think of a single person in my life that I've known growing up who's actually been that person. Not my parents, not my sister, not anybody in my extended family. I can tell you for a fact, nobody loves their life. Nobody that I know actually is in love with their life. They're all stuck. So I've never had a role model in my life to say, I think I'm amazing. I think I'm really amazing. I think what I'm doing is amazing. Who I am is amazing. None of it. It's all been very validation driven.
Yeah.
I'm going to get good grades so my parents can love me. I'm going to be the perfect daughter so my parents can love me. I'm going to be the perfect girlfriend so my boyfriend can love me. I'm going to be the perfect employee so my boss can love me.
I'm going to make the most money so people admire me.
Yeah.
I'm going to have a good car, a good apartment so people
I can
admire
be successful.
me.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's never been I'm amazing already.
Yeah.
It's never been that dialogue.
So you think it's very important to redefine the success, because it's very individual from everyone.
I mean,
what success is, but
absolutely. Like I spoke about this on a Mental Health Monday thing that I do at the moment as well. You know, whether it's you're running after success, which is all external, or whether it's fulfillment. And I think my definition has recently changed, because even success can also mean Instagram followers. You know, that's successful, but what are you really after?
I think recently it's been a huge wave around the world, people kind of waking up and being more vulnerable and speaking their truth and being honest. And we see that especially with lots of famous people, lots of successful businessmen, lots of big, huge, successful people who admit that they're actually not happy. They actually, all of them have therapists, all of them trying to go through therapy, trying to go try psychedelics and all kinds of stuff, just to kind of find happiness, just to find purpose of life, for life, because they are just proving to everybody that success, I mean,
doesn't guarantee nothing.
It's not like you have it, but it's not the thing you were actually looking for.
Yeah.
I think Jim Carrey was the one who said that he wishes that everybody fulfills all their dreams, becomes famous and rich, so they know that this is not the thing that you actually need in your life or want in your life. Something
That's
like
awesome.
that, right?
Yeah, I think I read that as well.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Exactly. So, you know, I think I was just thinking about it yesterday, very morbid thought. You know, I'm in my 30s, I'm 35 years old, and, you know, perhaps I've lived half my life based on all the horrible things I've done to my body. I don't know how much longer I've got, but I'm hoping about half my life. And if I've got half more to go, I've only got another half to go. And if I just spent the rest of it never asking myself the question, am I really living a passionate life? Am I really living out the purpose I was put on this planet for? It's such a privilege to be in this human body, have the consciousness to actually elevate, be in a position where I have the means, the desire, and the awareness to choose differently. Am I doing the best that I can for myself? You know, and I think we all owe it to ourselves to answer that question. I think a lot of people don't even bother asking the question, because if the answer is no, then that means you're going to have to do something about it. And the doing gets very scary for people.
Yeah, everybody's trying to avoid it, because numb it with everything else. Become the best version of yourself is like the hardest thing to do.
Yeah, but I also think that we owe it to ourselves as individuals to try. Otherwise, what the hell is the point?
I think that's the life should be about, right? I mean, that's what it is about.
That's it.
We all trying our best, but...
Exactly. I mean, you also realize that you and me have made the transition, the scary thing, we've done the thing. And you realize from here on out, there is literally no such thing as failure. There is nothing like failure. You try, it works, great. It doesn't work, okay, so you learn something. That's literally, I mean, it's the simplest thing. You probably heard everybody else say it, but it's so true.
It is true. I like this. I don't think it's a quote when they say what fail actually means, what the word fail actually means. It's first attempt in learning. You can take it like that.
Yeah.
Because it actually is. You cannot... I like to talk about it. I like to preach about it a lot, because from a perspective as taking photos, being a photographer, when people reach out to me and they're like, wow, how come you make such nice photos? Can you tell me which camera should I buy? And I'm like, it's not about the camera. It is also about a camera, but we were just talking about it. It's not about buying the most expensive and best camera and you're going to become a great photographer. There is hours and hours and days of hard work, of editing, of taking photos and failing over and over and over, and taking shit photos, editing them terribly, and learning while you're doing it, because without creating shit, you cannot create good stuff after.
Absolutely.
You have to go through the shit phase. You have to accept that you're going to create shit in the beginning. But that's the thing. If you have passion for it, that's fine, because it's going to be your passion. You're going to enjoy the process. But if you're just forcing it, I don't think you will ever get to the point, because very soon you're going to get tired of it. You're like, fuck this shit. I'm not going to spend hours watching tutorials on YouTube and how to edit and try editing. No, I just want the product. And I think that's the issue with lots of people these days. Most of the people, I think, because of internet, social media, because people see only success. Everybody's showing only the happy face, only the happy life and perfect life. And that's why people think this is the new norm. Like, if I'm not happy like them, if I'm not as successful as them, if I don't have all the money and all the nice pictures and all that traveling, I'm a loser, you know? And everybody wants instant success. Everybody wants instant big following, instant money and great relationship. And I think this is a huge issue people don't realize. I'm not sure if I was talking about it in my last podcast with Sarah, but I don't know with who, but with one friend I was talking about it. And we called it the microwave people, because they want it so fast. It's like when you're going to eat food, right? If you put it in microwave, 2 minutes, done, right? It was frozen before, it's already done, nice. But how nutritious it actually is. It's shit, right? But it gets you full, gets you there. But if you want actually nice, good, nutritious food, you have to go buy the groceries, come home, prepare them, cook the meal, takes hours and hours, and then you have nice, nutritious food, and it takes time to learn how to cook. So I would compare it to that, because many people want everything instant. They just want to put shit to microwave, that's it. But then the quality is same.
It's shit.
It's shit.
Yeah.
So I don't know where I was trying to get with this. I already forgot.
Now, I would say as well, I think that people have a issue with being bad at something. Or, actually just...
accepting failure, that's what we were talking
failure.
about.
I mean, I literally had this experience yesterday where I was training with Avinash, and we were working on a brand new move. And my instant reaction, obviously it was playful at this point, was, no, I'm not trying it. And I caught myself saying that. And I remember when I first started training with him 2 years ago, I would literally... I would feel so bad every day when I trained with him, because I was really shit. Like, I wasn't strong as I thought I was. I wasn't able to do the kind of things that I thought I could do. And it made me feel really bad about myself. And even if I've ever worked with somebody on my handstand practice, I realize I'm not good at falling. I'm really not good at falling.
Yeah.
I've worked so hard to build myself back up that I refuse to fall.
Yeah.
But falling with grace is something that you have to have as well, because falling is learning, right? And being not so good at something, it can either be an opportunity for you to really beat yourself down to a pulp about all the things that you're not so good at, or it could be an opportunity to say, hey, here's one more thing I could learn how to do, right? So it's that shift in perspective as well. And I feel like I've gotten better. I've gotten so much better at being okay with not being amazing at everything. And people just have this attitude of, like, again, as you said, because there's a lot of pressure to be perfect or nothing.
Yeah.
That people just don't even want to attempt something because they might turn out to be average.
Yeah.
Or not so great at something. So it's so much more comfortable to say, nope, not trying that, than to say, you know what? It's going to be okay. Even if I fall down, I'm going to get back up and I'll try again. It's just... there's just, if you're comfortable, then there's no need. So people would rather just be comfortable and miserable than be uncomfortable and in a growing pattern.
Yeah. That's the comfort zone, the most dangerous thing in the world.
It is, until you get out of it and you realize that there is a whole life for you to live, right? Because I feel like as long as we're living in a comfort zone bubble, you're existing.
Yeah.
Every day is the same. Just surviving, exactly.
Not going to your full potential.
Exactly.
I think that's what we were talking about today, about the options you think you have, because we are like blindfolded. We see only a couple of things we want to see. We put focus on, and this is it. I see these 3 options to do, and if I don't do this, and if it doesn't work, that's it. I'm fucked. I'm gonna die probably, But we don't realize that if we don't attach ourselves so much to this and we just surrender, we let go, there is infinite number of opportunities to do. You don't even realize, and they will just happen. They come to your life, or you can literally do anything, as cheesy as it sounds.
Yeah, I mean, I think, for me, I like to acknowledge if I'm feeling sorry for myself and I'm feeling down, if I'm having one of those days, it's okay for the day to be shit. It's okay. It's okay for life to suck and for everything to feel like it's really hard, for, to have that why me cry if you need to have it, whatever that might be. I don't want to not acknowledge the way I feel anymore. I want to acknowledge it. It's worth feeling those feelings.
Yeah.
But then to get up and look past it, because as you said, life is a matter of perspective, right? You could be extremely stuck because of the way that you think. And if something is not working, you continue chipping away in that direction when life is telling you, nope, choose a different option. Or you could just look at everything and say, yes, I know, okay, it's hard, but I'm going to figure it out anyway.
Yeah.
I'm not going to stay stuck. I'm going to find a way out of this, whatever that might be. So, you know, I think both are quite important to acknowledge the way that you're feeling. Never ignore that, because if things are hard, fuck it, they're hard. Okay, I will sit here, feel sorry for myself for about 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Allow myself to have that process and
express
then
it
express
properly
it. And then figure out how to move on and move past it. Okay, things are hard. What can I do to shift that?
Yeah. I think we like to hold on things, and there's beautiful analogy from Buddhism. I don't know exactly the story about the monkey that is grabbing a, I think, apple, whatever it is, in a tree. And as the monkey grabs the apple, it's trying to pull it out, but it cannot because the hole is too small. And then the monkey is stuck and doesn't know what to do.
This is how they catch monkeys in India, you know, because they have the guys who make the monkeys dance. Yeah, they need to catch the monkeys first to be able to, you know, train them and stuff.
Yeah.
So they create a trap.
Yeah.
So they put a piece of food in a jar, and as the monkey reaches in, grabs the food
and doesn't let go.
Yeah, it doesn't let go. So only if they let go, they know that they can free themselves, but they feel like they're stuck because they're still holding on to the thing.
And I feel like this is what most of the people are going through.
Yeah.
We just hold on tight so much on something. We think this is something what we need, instead of letting go and set ourselves free. And there is the whole world of opportunities.
I mean, it was literally how I was living my life, right? I was forcing myself to live the way I was living, completely unhealthy, high all the time, in the worst relationship because I thought I was in love, doing work that was literally killing me, just because I thought that's all I had the option to do because I went to university for this degree. How could I not do this work?
This was the only option you saw at the time, right? The only
option I saw. Yeah. So everything that I was attaching to my identity at that point in my life was the only thing that was available to me, and that's what brought me to a breaking point. Because life was literally like, this is not working. Can you not see this is not working? And then I think the Band-Aid had to be ripped off, you know? So, yeah.
Very brave.
It's very admirable, and it's very interesting to also realize how far people can go being miserable, being unhappy, until they come to a point where they just can't go on any longer. Yeah. And I'm not sure why we have to get to that point always. Why can't we make a U-turn from somewhere along the line rather than get to that point where there is absolutely nothing left?
I think it's still, we just see it kind of as the easier way, you know? Even though it's probably not, because it's like long-term, it's like chronic disease. Yeah. Chronic disease kind of, because it goes long-term, slowly killing you instead of just cutting it and go through shit. I don't think people don't want to do it because it's stepping out of the comfort zone. It's because it's going into unknown. Because this, they know, right? You know this. You already know this pain. You already know what it is. So you're kind of comfortable. You're like, okay, I don't want to try anything new because then I will have to go to the unknown and you don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
And that's scary. Yeah. That's where the fear kicks in and people don't like it. I mean, I've been there as well many times, so I know what I'm talking about. It's just staying in the low. It's at the moment, at the point you just feel like this is the thing. This is the easier, better thing to do because I don't want to deal with the shit. I'll just stay in the shit. That's better. Which
is why I think what you're doing with this podcast is so important, because I don't think, I mean, me personally, I don't know anybody again in my sphere, in my family sphere, in my previous circle of friends. I don't know enough people who had actually done this. Walking this path, we're all rebels. We're all doing the uncharted thing. We're all doing the thing where we left the comfort zone and we walked away from it and we're trying something different. Now I'm surrounded by people who do what I did. But when I was living the previous life, nobody in my circle of friends, family circle, anybody that I knew lived like this. So yeah, I think what you're doing for people is really amazing, because I want everybody to know, anybody listening out there to know that you have choices. You really have choices. Even when you think you don't, you have, it doesn't feel like the easy choice, but you have the choice. And you know that, you know, you got people like Matt, you got people like myself that you can reach out to be able to get some advice. And, you know, even if you need the nudge, just to like that tipping point where you just take the leap of faith and go for it. If you need us to be that person for you, we're definitely out here, you know,
definitely
cheering you on.
Yeah. We are the best cheerleaders. We know how to do handstands.
Right? Oh, do some handstands. That will change everything too.
For sure. If you could, I don't know, one single advice to give to somebody who's dealing with addiction, what would it be?
Dealing with addiction.
Doesn't matter what kind of addiction.
I'd say part of the hold that addictions have on people is the cycle, the mental chat cycle that happens, right? I mean, therapists have a lot of exercises that they'll have you do, including write down what you eat. You know, for alcoholics and any kind of addicts, they say drink enough water, make sure you're eating enough food, and having enough rest, because one of those three things are not in place and you are ready to go down a slippery slope. I think, you know, what my piece of advice is going to be is not going to seem so straightforward. I think addiction, a lot of people have said that it's your soul trying to ascend and you're trying to stop because it doesn't feel like the right thing. It feels like the very scary thing to do, to allow yourself to listen to your gut, to your heart. But I think the violence that we inflict on ourselves through addiction, it comes from a place of self-loathing.
Yeah.
So if you can start even very, very small scale, start to listen to some podcasts, start to pick up a book and read. I mean, I have plenty of books that I've read along the way that have been super helpful for me, just to start to perhaps think about loving yourself.
Yeah.
In a small way, you know. If you're dealing with a food addiction, then allow yourself to have a piece of chocolate, you know, just, I don't know. I think you're inflicting pain and punishment on yourself for a reason. And I think if you can start to change that dialogue, it won't happen overnight. I mean, for me, it's a very conscious process of switching the dialogue out, but every day a little bit more, starting to fall in love with yourself. Because if you can learn to at least respect yourself, not love yourself, but at least respect yourself, then you won't want to harm yourself as much as you do.
Yeah. Would you say that doing small steps very slowly is better than doing one step?
Absolutely. You know, I mean, gratitude journal, just to start to change your mindset a little bit as well. You know, if you can start to change your mood, catch yourself in a pattern where you're not allowing yourself to eat because you know that drink is waiting for you in the evening, whatever it might be, just start to notice these things a little bit. And, you know, I think Russell Brand has a really good book on rehabilitation as well. I think it is called Rehab or something like that. It's about the 12 steps. And he says, you know, he had a huge porn addiction. He was a sex addict. And he said, you know, the addiction is still out there. You know, the bad wolf, not the bad wolf, the dark wolf. And, you know, the demons are still out there. But it's like, as he said, he knows, and I know for a fact, what happens when I allow myself to give in and go down that road. You end up feeling bad. You end up feeling worse than you do when you made the decision to do the thing, because you just don't end up, you know how miserable it makes you. It gives you a headache. You feel horrible in your body, whatever the physical and the emotional and the psychological result is. Yeah. And it's not worth it. It doesn't seem worth it in the end. So if you have an addictive personality like me, start to find healthy ways to to get addicted to other stuff, like whether it's
Healthy
yoga,
stuff.
whether it's handstands. I mean, all of it can be unhealthy if it's done too much or whatever, but you know what I mean? Like, find the things that matter to you more than your addiction could be a start.
Yeah.
You know, if you're not able to love yourself, find other things that you can start to love more than you love your addiction.
Yeah.
For me, as I said, handstands was something that completely changed the game, because you can't stand on your hands when you're drunk.
I think physical practice in general is recommended, right? And to people dealing with addiction, doesn't matter what kind of physical practice. We don't want to sell only yoga here, but if yoga works for you, fine. If martial arts works for you, fine. If lifting works for you, whatever it is. I just know that any physical training, any physical practice really helps you to keep your shit together.
And I think maybe even more than the physical practice, it puts you in the vicinity of people, of healthy people. And I think just the being around people that are just, again, in love with themselves, in love with what they're doing, have a healthier outlook on life than you do perhaps at the moment, it just puts you in a different mind frame. Yeah. To surround yourself with people that you can look up to, that you can aspire to be, that you can be inspired by, that you can lean on when you're having a hard day, just people that you can start to confide in. I think it's about changing your circle as well. Take a good look at the people around you, because that tells a lot. That's very telling on the kind of person that you're trying to become.
Yeah, for sure. And if you could give one piece of advice to people who would like to change their life, make a move in their life, switch careers or get out of this unhealthy relationship or anything, what would you?
I'd say do it. Because the only way to know whether it's right or wrong is to do it. You have one life to live. There is no such thing as failure. There are only those things that you never tried or never bothered to do. So if what you're in currently, in your gut, in your heart, doesn't feel like the right thing, then make the switch, because the rest of your life you couldn't have even imagined how it might have turned out. But the only way to live that life is to make the switch.
Yeah. Beautiful. You should be a motivational speaker. I think this is what I said in my last podcast as well, but I have to bring it again. It's the fact that we can see only what we're going to lose. Every single time when we calculate our choices, when we calculate the risk, the only thing we can measure is what we can lose, but not what we can get, what we can gain. And that's the big issue, because you can gain infinite number of possibilities and options, but you don't see them, because you cannot see them until you try.
Yeah, but
you can only see what you lose.
But I think you almost have to lose yourself to find yourself. Mm-hmm. You almost have to give up everything that you ever thought defined you to really allow yourself to become the person that you were always meant to be.
Yeah.
You have to get rid of all the labels that you thought were what defined your success, or your gave you value and validated your existence in your life, to live the life of your dreams. It's the only way. Yeah. It's the only way.
All the beliefs you've been taught since you were born, literally, from your parents, your family, your friends, the school, the society. Yeah, you have to be ready to give it up all.
I mean, I think for me, I question that every day. Mm-hmm. I mean, I think, from the fact that you've got a name and you've got a nationality and you've got parents and you've got siblings and you've got a society and you don't get to choose your school, all of the stuff that was never an option. Mm-hmm. In my 30s, it's been a constant unlearning of all of those things, because I realized that a lot of those things aren't even me.
I think I'm going through this right now as well.
There you go.
Realizing, being aware of everything you've been taught since you were a kid. And it's not like your parents wanted to do something bad. It's just, that's what they knew. They didn't know better. And not only your parents, the school system, teachers, friends, everybody around you, the whole society. It's, as we said, everybody's trying their best. Maybe not everybody, but everybody's usually trying their best. Yeah. And it's just what there was, but you have to realize that these beliefs are not you. You can create you.
Yeah, and then that becomes the exciting, scary question, right? Then if all these things that I used to think were me are not me, then who the hell am I?
Exactly.
Yeah, and that can be a really, really scary question,
It
or it can be the most
very
exciting
deep.
one. Yeah, it can be a very exciting one to figure out. It might take you to Timbuktu, you know?
Yeah.
The quest might take you to Timbuktu. Like, it might take you anywhere in the world.
Yeah.
And be willing to go there.
One more thing to highlight, I think it's important for people to realize that this is not a process with ending point. This is life. This is a whole life process. You will never get to the point where you say, okay, this is it. This is the shit. I got it all figured out. That's it. You will never get to the point. You will always be in the process of it, right? Mm-hmm. That's why they say you have to just enjoy the process, because life is the process.
Life is the process. I mean, when I remember I had that whole bathroom floor crying moment many, many times in the middle of the night. And I used to pray. I used to pray for the courage to live the life of my dreams. I used to pray to have a life that excited me, but also scared the crap out of me.
Yeah.
To live an exciting life that scared the crap out of me. And I'm currently doing it. I'm currently doing it every single day, you know, to be self-employed and to be an entrepreneur, trying to figure stuff out, trying to understand whether things are right or wrong, having crisis moments daily, having self-doubt moments daily, having issues with stuff, you know, with myself, with my surroundings, questioning everything and not being afraid to question things anymore either.
Yeah.
You know, it's just I wouldn't trade it in ever, to go back to the way things were ever again.
Yeah.
No way. No way. I mean, I'm blessed. Life isn't always easy, but it's exactly what I want.
I remember actually from your class, it was the quote you said that life is not happening to you, it's happening for you. It's stuck in my head since then, and it's beautifully said.
It's
It's
true,
all about
right?
the perspective.
It's true. Even the hard times, even the impossible times, even the times that
They're
bring you to your
necessary
knees.
As you said, you don't regret anything would happen in your life because you wouldn't be who you are if it didn't happen.
Yeah.
So, a very important question. Are you happy?
Yes and no. I think it's not wrong for me to want different things than I do have at the moment. In general, am I happy? Absolutely. I think one of the things that I find very hard to do is to give myself credit for anything that I've done. I never stop to say Neha's doing a really good job. And there is nobody in my life that does that for me either. I don't think. My parents love me and they have their own definitions of what it means to, you know, love me. But it's never been in support of what I do. They've always been pillars of support in my life when I've needed them. Yeah. But it's never been a matter of like, they don't understand. My family doesn't understand what I do for a living. They don't understand what my trajectory in my life is.
They don't have to.
They don't have to. But, you know, that means more and more that I have to, you know, just be nice and kind and amazing to myself. I have to be that person for myself in my life too. Yeah. So one of the things that I definitely want to get better at doing is just acknowledging where I've been and where I've come from and how far I've gotten. So in short, no, Neha is a perfectionist and she has lots of goals and dreams that are still unfulfilled. And so wants and desires are always going to be there, but not in a debilitating way, not in a way that makes me feel low or, you know, any less than anybody else. I'm doing my best. I'm doing my best, and that keeps me happy. I'm moving forward, and that keeps me happy.
And I'm very proud of you.
Oh, I'm proud of you too.
I'm super proud of you, and I would like to acknowledge you for everything you do.
I love you, Matt.
I love you too. You are an amazing human being. Since the first day that I did your class and I known you, you were on a big pedestal for me. You were actual idol for me, for what you do. But that's been a couple of years ago, and since then, that I got to know you better and we became really good friends. And I know through how much shit you went through in your life, and thanks to all this knowledge that I know about you now, you are even higher than you were before. You were not, before you were just like, wow, look at her, she's got her shit together. She's a yoga teacher. She's amazing at what she's doing. now that I know how much shit you went through and how you dealt with it and how strong you are still to this point, it's just very admirable. And I would like you to know that I admire you every single day, and you are a huge inspiration for me every single day.
I love you. And I think that like attracts like. And I think that, I'm really blessed at this moment in my life to be surrounded by people who are all inspirational, including yourself. I think that you're doing amazing things, and you're doing amazing things for the community. I think that you're an amazing teacher too, and you have so much to share. You have such a big heart, and you're so compassionate. And I think more men need to learn how to be that way.
Thank you.
But I'm just blessed. I'm really blessed to have the life that I have, to have gone through everything that I've gone through. And I look forward to just the journey moving forward, knowing that I'm surrounded by inspiration and so much strength.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Beautiful. One last question for you.
Yeah.
How would you like to be remembered?
Oof.
Going deeper.
How would I like to be remembered? Oh, geez. I don't think as a teacher at all. I feel like as someone who might have helped people.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't even say that I would want to be a healer, because I think that'd be taking too much credit.
I think you already are anyway.
But
regardless if you want or not, just by sharing your experience, people can identify themselves with your story. And I know how much it helps when people share their story and you go through similar shit. I know how much it helps just to hear the story, just to hear that people going through the same shit, you don't feel alone.
True.
And it inspires you just because they made it.
They were able to go through it.
And you made it. You have an incredible story to share. And I'm so thankful that you're so open and vulnerable and happy to share it, because out there is so many people who need to hear this story. And I always say that every big change in the world starts from an individual.
Mm-hmm.
And if there is only one single person that listens to this podcast and they find something that's going to help them, I already achieved my goal with this podcast. So, and you helped me to achieve it. I'm so thankful for it.
I love you. No, I think if I talk about like how I'd like to be remembered, just someone who could have helped, just someone who helped. I feel like we've had this chat as well. I don't know how much longer. I mean, realistically, at some point, yoga, as they say, you have to give back the poses. Mm-hmm. And I don't know how much longer I'd want to continue handstanding. I mean, I love it now, but who knows what's coming up down the line. Yeah. But I think, if I was somebody who helped you in your life, then that's enough for me. If I could help in some way or the other, whether it's by listening to you or you having heard something I said or being in one of my classes or any which way that I can. And one of my dreams is to open up a rehab center and help people find a way back, not through pills, not through therapy, but just pure healing, and mostly healing yourself. Mm-hmm. It's one of my dreams.
That's a great idea.
Yeah, I think maybe somewhere.
Do you know that many people actually know you as the teacher who say fuck in their classes?
Maybe that's the way I want to be remembered. The girl who swears a lot.
It's very real. That's who you are. So yeah, let's, I don't know, I didn't even realize. I don't know if you did. It's more than an hour. It's amazing. I could talk all day to you. Let's tell people how can they find you? Where can they find you?
So at the moment, I'm teaching classes at a couple of different studios, two in particular, Urban Yoga and Inspire on Sheikh Zayed Road. My Instagram handle is Neha Duseja Yoga, and I tend to put my schedule up there every single week, hopefully, if I'm doing things right. I'm also building a website and hoping to be able to offer a lot of online courses and online content for you to practice. I've got a YouTube channel with the same name, Neha Duseja Yoga. If
I'm
like
going
to
share
practice.
it under, yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, just keep plugged in, and I'll keep you posted on tons of stuff that are coming up. Hopefully more retreats and intensives and more trainings. I'm kind of going down the teacher training route. So, maybe hopefully announcing like a training next year. So yeah, lots of stuff in the pipeline, and I will keep you posted. But at the moment, just regular classes in Dubai a couple times a week.
Yeah. So if you listen to this podcast, feel free to share it on your Instagram. Tag Neha Duseja yoga. Tag me at Matt Bendick, and share it with a friend. Share it with everybody who needs to hear it, who you think needs to hear it. Just heal people, help people to heal. And there was one more thing you told me about today. Would you like to share it? Where your career might go eventually?
Where my career might go eventually?
What are you working on? Taking a course?
Oh, stand up. Yeah. So, as I said earlier, I'm a creative person. It's funny because when I was in university, I had teachers telling me that I was going to be a writer, but I loved being visual. So I ended up being an art director. So I'm doing a stand-up comedy course at the moment. It's been one of my things for the past couple of years. I just haven't been able to be in the city while the course is running by these guys called Dubomedy. So there's a stand-up set that I have to write, and they're helping me cultivate the art of writing and punchlines and jokes and things. And
I think that's amazing.
It's going to be awesome.
I would never say, who would have thought?
I either might bomb really badly. Nobody's going to laugh at my jokes, but I think I'm okay. I'm going to be okay with that. I think that's a fear that I have to face. But, I think all of us who teach, we're nothing less than public speakers. Mm-hmm. And I like to be funny in my classes. So I think if anything, hopefully is going to make me funnier. I don't know.
That's amazing.
So there's a live show on the 18th of April. Please don't come.
Please come. I'll try to be there.
No. Don't bring any rotten vegetables is all I'm going to say. Just more and more stuff like that.
That's very exciting.
I don't know. I'm okay with jumping into stuff that scares the crap out of me. I'm really okay with it now. I think I've done life, and nothing can be harder. It only gets more fun, and you meet some amazing people. And so, stand-up comedy is going to be my thing.
You might have a Netflix special soon.
I'm going to be the hilarious hand stand-up. You get it?
Wow.
Yeah.
You're already good. Do you have any rotten vegetables?
Thanks, Matt.
You're welcome. Always happy to support. All right. Thank you so much again for being here. Thank you so much for brightening up the room and the world with your message.
Thank you so much for having me. As I said, it's a long time coming. I'm sorry we haven't gotten around to it, but
we've been busy.
I think it was worth it. Yeah, in Nepal, taking pictures and stuff.
Yep, exactly. And that's it. Hope you enjoyed listening to Neha's story. And if you did, please share it with your friends, with your family, or anyone who needs to hear it. And let's show everyone that being vulnerable is okay. And let's make it a new normal. I'm going to leave you with that. Hope you have a beautiful day. Hope you are safe. And no matter what you are doing, remember, you always have a choice to make a move in any direction you want.